He was a teen outlaw with a six-shooter and a death sentence. With the law on his heels, Billy the Kid vanished into the wild frontier again and again. But where did he go? And how did he always seem one step ahead of justice? This kid was different. He was like a ghost. Here 1 minute, gone the next. It's enough to make you wonder if Billy had some kind of secret. Some trick to staying one step ahead of the posse. Truth is, he did. Today, we're uncovering the secret hideouts of Billy the Kid and the wild stories behind them. So saddle up because we're about to ride headfirst into the world of Billy the Kid. Fort Sumner. Sounds peaceful enough, doesn't it? Just another dusty outpost in eastern New Mexico. But for Billy, this place was more than just a fort. It was familiar territory. Comfortable, even. You see, Billy was tight with a rancher named Pete Maxwell who lived just outside the fort. Maxwell's place was like a second home to the kid. A place where he could kick off his boots, catch his breath and blend in with the locals. And blend in he did. Folks around Fort Sumner, they knew Billy. They knew his story, knew his reputation, but they also knew him as a regular guy. He spoke their language, literally his Spanish was fluent and he treated people right. So, yeah, the law knew about Fort Sumner. They knew it was Billy's stomping ground, but even the law can be swayed by a little local charm. Billy must have figured he could always count on Fort Sumner to be there for him. Maybe he got a little too comfortable. See, in July of 1881, Sheriff Pat Garrett, the man who'd been on Billy's trail for years, got a tip. Garrett rode into Fort Sumner in the dead of night, snuck into Pete Maxwell's house, and waited. Waited for Billy to walk right into his trap, and that's just what happened. Picture this. December, 1880. The wind is howling across the plains, biting through your clothes like a starved wolf. Snow is falling, covering the New Mexico landscape in a blanket of white. It's the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, the kind that makes you crave shelter and warmth. Now imagine you're Billy the Kid, and you're holed up in a one-room rock house near Fort Sumner. The place is called Stinking Springs, and the name says it all. You're with your gang, a rough-and-tumble bunch even by outlaw standards. You're low on supplies, morale is even lower, and the only thing keeping you warm is a fire that's spitting and hissing in the corner. But hey, at least you're out of the snow, right? Wrong. See, while Billy and his boys are huddled inside trying to forget the cold, Sheriff Pat Garrett is out there too. He's been tracking Billy for weeks, and the blizzard is the break he's been waiting for. Garrett knows Billy's trapped, knows he has nowhere to go, so he surrounds the rock house, his men hidden in the shadows, waiting for the first sign of movement. You ever been to Lincoln, New Mexico? It's a sleepy little town, or at least it looks that way now. But, back in Billy the Kid's day, Lincoln was a powder keg, just waiting for a spark. And Billy, well, he was the spark that set the whole thing off. See, in April of 1881, Billy was being held in the Lincoln County Courthouse. He'd been captured again, and was set to hang for his crimes. They had him shackled, under guard, locked up tighter than a drum, figured he was going to be a real law-abiding citizen from that point forward, 6 feet under. But they underestimated Billy the Kid. They forgot who they were dealing with. One afternoon, left alone with 2 deputies, Billy made his move. He sweet-talked one of the guards, a fella named James Bell, into removing his shackles. Said the iron was chafing his ankles. Big mistake. The moment the shackles were off, Billy grabbed Bell's own gun and shot him dead. Then, he waited for the other deputy, Bob Ollinger, to come back from lunch. Imagine a place where the earth rises up to meet the sky, a place where the rocks are as old as time, and the silence is broken only by the wind whistling through the canyons. This is the Capitan Mountains, a rugged, unforgiving wilderness that sprawls across Lincoln County, New Mexico. For most folks, it was a place to be feared, avoided at all costs. But for Billy the Kid, the Capitan Mountains were his secret weapon. These mountains, they were more than just a hideout, they were Billy's backyard. He knew every trail, every canyon, every hidden crevice. He could vanish into those mountains like a whisper, disappearing into the shadows and leaving the law grasping at dust devils. Even the best trackers, the toughest lawmen wouldn't dare follow him too deep into the Capitan Mountains. It was like trying to catch a shadow, a ghost riding the wind. Billy's knowledge of the terrain, it wasn't just good luck, it was survival. Now picture this, you're on the run. Not just from a grumpy shopkeeper or a jealous husband, but from the law. You're wanted, dead or alive, and the posse on your tail ain't known for their mercy. You need to disappear, vanish off the face of the earth. Where do you go? Well, if you're Billy the Kid, you head straight for the Mescalero Apache Reservation. This wasn't just some random patch of desert, mind you. This was Apache territory, a place where the law of the land was decided by the tribe, not by some badge-wearing lawman from the east. Even the bravest, or maybe that's the stupidest, lawmen wouldn't dare follow you onto the reservation. It was like stepping into another world, a world where the rules were different, where survival depended on respect and understanding. Now no one knows for sure why Billy felt so safe on the reservation. Now you don't survive as long as Billy the Kid did without making a few friends along the way. And I'm not talking about the kind of friends you share a beer with. I'm talking about the kind of friends who'll hide you in their barn when the law is knocking, the kind who'll feed you and point you in the right direction when you're running on empty. Billy, he had a knack for making those kinds of friends. All across New Mexico, he had a network of allies, folks from all walks of life who were willing to stick their necks out for him. Ranchers, farmers, shopkeepers, even the occasional outlaw. They saw something in Billy, something that made them want to help him. Maybe it was his charm. The kid had a smile that could melt glaciers and a way of talking that could disarm even the most hardened cynic. Or maybe it was his reputation as a Robin Hood figure, a champion of the little guy, especially after the Lincoln County War. Whatever the reason, Billy knew how to cultivate loyalty, how to make people believe in him. These hidden allies, they were his lifeline. So how did he do it? How did a kid like Billy the Kid, a kid with a price on his head and the law hot on his trail, manage to stay one step ahead for so long? Well, it wasn't just luck, that's for sure. Billy the Kid, he wasn't just hiding, he was surviving. He was like a coyote, smart, adaptable, always watching, always listening. He knew the land, knew it like the back of his hand. He could disappear into the vastness of the New Mexico desert, vanish into the mountains, reappear 100 miles away like a ghost. He had a network of allies, folks who'd risk their necks to help him, to hide him, to feed him. And he had guts, the kind of guts that got him out of more scrapes than he could count. But maybe, just maybe, the reason Billy was so hard to catch was because people didn't really want to catch him. See, Billy the Kid wasn't just an outlaw, he was a symbol. To some he was a menace, a villain who needed to be brought to justice. Billy the Kid was a legend not just because he could shoot, but because he could vanish. From mountain strongholds to friendly ranches, he created a web of hiding places that kept him alive longer than anyone expected. He was a ghost in boots, a whisper in the wind, a living, breathing legend of the Wild West. Which hideout surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to hear how Billy escaped from jail with nothing but guts and a stolen gun, check out our next video on his wildest escape yet.